What shall we do with a tyrant king who kills for love, destroys for pride, and dies in his own filth? We remember King Henry VIII as the larger-than-life monarch who changed England forever, bold, powerful, defiant. But few dare to peer beneath the velvet robes and jeweled crown to see the monster he truly became. Behind every royal decree was a man drunk on power, obsessed with control, and rotting physically and morally day by day. This is the unvarnished, grotesque, bloody tale of Henry VIII, the tyrant who murdered wives, butchered friends, betrayed his people, and died bloated, stinking, and alone. Let's begin where all evil starts, with desire. Born on a frosty June day in 1491, Henry Tudor was the second son of Henry VII. When Henry ascended the throne in 1509, he was just 17 years old. And what a specimen he was! Athletic, intelligent, charming, and deeply religious. People adored him. They saw him as a perfect king, fair, energetic, and devoted to England. But inside him burned a ravenous hunger for legacy, power, dominance, and most of all, a son. He was not meant to be king. That honor belonged to his elder brother, Arthur. But fate, that sly reaper, had other plans. In 1502, Arthur died mysteriously at the age of 15, and the crown shifted to young Henry. Henry played the lute, composed poetry, and bested knights in jousting tournaments. The court adored him. The people sang his name. The chroniclers of the day described him as a young Apollo, full of vigor, grace, and charm. He married Catherine of Aragon, his dead brother's widow, in a union meant to seal England's alliance with Spain. She was graceful, pious, and intelligent. For years, their marriage appeared blessed. Yet Henry, for all his early virtue, bore one consuming flaw, the desire for a male heir. That's when everything began to rot. Catherine bore him children, but only one survived, Mary. One boy after another died in infancy or stillbirth. Henry, increasingly paranoid, believed he was cursed. Was it not a sin, after all, to marry his brother's wife? Had God turned against him? At first, Henry was a devout Catholic. He wrote against Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation, earning the title Defender of the Faith from the Pope. But the seeds of rebellion had been sown. Pride, power, and lust began to unravel his religious loyalty. His wandering eyes soon fell upon Anne Boleyn, a sharp-tongued lady of the court with dark eyes and ambition in her veins. She refused to be a mistress. She would be queen or nothing. Desperate to replace Catherine with someone who could give him a son, Henry sought to divorce her, but the Pope refused. So what did Henry do? He tore England out of the Catholic Church. In 1533, Henry defied Rome, married Anne Boleyn, and declared himself supreme head of the Church of England. Thus began the English Reformation, not for the people, not for doctrine, but for Henry's groin and his ego. The spiritual heart of England was ripped out and replaced with royal tyranny. He executed those who opposed him, including Sir Thomas More, his friend and former chancellor, who refused to recognize the king's supremacy over the church. Henry had him beheaded. Also, John Fisher, Bishop of Rochester, who stood by Catherine of Aragon and the Pope, also beheaded. And the blood didn't stop there. From 1536 to 1541, Henry ordered the destruction of England's monasteries. England wept as the monasteries were closed, their riches seized. Priests who resisted were hung, drawn, and quartered. Monks were burned. Martyrs were made. More than 800 religious houses were destroyed, monks and nuns thrown into the streets, ancient texts burned, and sacred art smashed to pieces. The poor lost hospitals. The travelers lost shelter. The sick lost their last hope. But Henry? He grew richer than any English king before him. He sold the stolen land to nobles, turning the church into a carcass and feeding it to his loyalists. This wasn't reformation. It was robbery in a bishop's cloak. Henry's personal life was a soap opera soaked in blood. His first wife was Catherine of Aragon, his late brother's wife. Catherine was faithful and regal. Henry cast aside after 24 years of marriage because she couldn't give him a son. She died alone, heartbroken, and exiled, her only crime being unable to bear a boy. In 1533, he married Anne Boleyn. She gave birth not to the long-awaited prince, but to another daughter, Elizabeth. Henry was bitterly disappointed. The court murmured and Anne's enemies multiplied. Anne's charm soon curdled into scorn. She mocked Henry's impotence, grew jealous, and surrounded herself with enemies. In 1536, Henry ordered her arrest. She was accused of adultery, incest, and treason, charges likely fabricated. On a May morning, Anne was beheaded at the Tower of London, her head struck cleanly by a French swordsman. Her body was buried in an unmarked grave. Her final prayer was not for herself, but for England. The same week Anne died, Henry married Jane Seymour. She was quiet, meek, and submissive, the opposite of Anne. At last, in 1537, she bore him a son, Edward, but her triumph was short-lived. She died days later from childbirth complications. Henry, for once, grieved sincerely. Jane would be the only wife buried beside him. But grief did not cleanse his soul. The land was restless. Pilgrimages of protest erupted across the north. One such rebellion, the Pilgrimage of Grace, was crushed with merciless force. Hundreds were executed. The heads of noblemen and monks rotted on pikes. He trusted no one. Even his closest advisor, Sir Thomas More, whom he once called friend, was executed for refusing to recognize his supremacy over the church. More, a scholar and saint, went to the scaffold with calm dignity. Henry, meanwhile, raged like a madman. By now, Henry's health began to decline. A jousting accident in 1536 left him unconscious for 2 hours. His leg was crushed, the wound refusing to heal. It ulcerated and festered. The once vigorous king grew obese and irritable. His appetite was legendary. He consumed meat and wine in monstrous quantities. He married again. And of Cleves, a German princess whose painted portrait had deceived him. Upon meeting her in person, he declared her a Flanders mare and annulled the marriage after 6 months. Next came Catherine Howard, barely 17 while he was nearing 50. She was lively and flirtatious, but secrets from her past caught up with her. She had once been involved with other men. When Henry found out, he flew into a rage. In 1542, she was beheaded, accused of treason. "I die a queen, but I would rather have died the wife of Culpeper," she whispered before the axe fell. Henry wept, but not for love, rather for betrayal, for humiliation. He was now monstrously fat, unable to walk without aid. His legs oozed pus. The smell around him became unbearable. His courtiers used dried flowers and oranges to mask it. They feared his wrath, his gaze, his breath. In 1543, Henry married one final time, Catherine Parr, a wise and tactful widow. She nursed his decaying body and soothed his temper. She also reconnected him with his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, restoring them to the line of succession. 6 wives, 2 beheaded, 2 cast aside. 1 died in agony. Only 1 survived. Henry was not just a wife killer. He destroyed friends and enemies alike. Thomas Cromwell, the man who helped engineer Anne Boleyn's downfall and orchestrated the dissolution of the monasteries, was later executed by Henry after an arranged marriage to Anne of Cleves displeased the king. Thomas More, once his closest confidant, was beheaded for refusing to betray his faith. He burned Protestants as heretics, then burned Catholics as traitors, depending on the day. He was a pendulum of violence, swinging madly between extremes. His court was a maze of terror, where one wrong word could end your life. Now let us turn to his physical decay, a grotesque unraveling of the man himself. In 1536, while jousting, yes, at age 45, Henry suffered a brutal leg injury. His horse fell on him, and he was unconscious for hours. The wound never healed. Instead, it ulcerated and festered for the next 11 years of his life. Doctors tried to drain it with ancient methods, leeches, poultices, and cauterization, but nothing worked. The wound stank. It leaked pus daily. The smell was so foul that courtiers claimed you could smell the king before you saw him. It became infected repeatedly, causing unbearable pain, mood swings, and fevers, and he grew fatter. From a lean prince to over 400 pounds, Henry became so large he needed mechanical hoists to move. He could no longer ride, walk, or even stand unaided. His heart strained under the pressure. His urine was foul and bloody, a sign of diabetes or kidney failure. His eyes bulged, his breath was labored, and his legs oozed blood. He was rotting alive. As his body broke down, so did his mind. Henry became paranoid and violent. He accused nobles of treason for idle whispers. He executed men on suspicion. He rewrote wills, changed his heir repeatedly, and ruled by fear. He tortured those who resisted him. He had his own illegitimate son beaten and hidden. He crushed rebellions with public hangings and beheadings, ordering corpses displayed as warnings. And all the while, he denied death. He refused to speak of it. His doctors couldn't say he was dying, lest they be accused of treason. By 1547, Henry could no longer move. He lay in his massive, padded bed in Whitehall Palace, surrounded by terrified courtiers and fawning clergy. His ulcers were now gangrenous. The smell was so vile that servants fainted upon entering the room. His skin was blackened in places, swollen in others. He screamed in pain. His urine was thick as syrup. His body was filled with fluids and infection. He hadn't written in days. He barely spoke. When his final moments came, only Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, was brave enough to sit at his side. Henry couldn't speak, but he squeezed Cranmer's hand in acknowledgement. And with that, the most powerful king in England's history died like a diseased animal. But the horror wasn't over. His bloated corpse was sealed in a massive coffin, but not sealed well enough. As it traveled to Windsor Castle for burial, the gases in his decaying body built up. According to multiple sources, his abdomen exploded overnight, splattering pus and fluid through the coffin. At Sion Monastery, where his body rested en route, dogs were seen licking the leaked remains. One observer quoted the Bible, "And dogs shall eat the flesh of Jezebel," a fitting fate for a king who had destroyed monasteries, burned heretics, and made himself God on earth. And where is Henry now? Not under a grand monument, not beneath a gold-laced cathedral. He lies beneath a plain stone in St. George's Chapel, Windsor, buried next to Jane Seymour, the woman who gave him his precious son. His tomb was never finished. The man who demanded endless luxury and obedience in life was buried in silence, hidden from the world, like the secret shame of a nation. Henry VIII left England changed forever. He created the Church of England, centralized power, and fathered a dynasty. But he also left a trail of corpses, a country torn by religious chaos, and a legacy of fear and cruelty. His own son, Edward VI, died young. His daughter Mary became Bloody Mary, burning Protestants. Only Elizabeth, the daughter of the executed Anne Boleyn, would restore stability. But the rot had already set in. Because when a king builds his empire on murder, betrayal, and lies, even the throne becomes a coffin. Enjoyed this dark journey through history? Then don't just watch, join us. Subscribe for more stories the textbooks won't tell you. The bloodier, the darker, the more shocking, the deeper we dig. From tyrant kings to forgotten peasants, this channel is your front row seat to the brutal past. So go on, click that red button, because history isn't dead. It's just buried, and we're here to dig it up.